All right, welcome to episode 6 of Snapverse616. Hey, look at me not saying 666 this week.
Hey, for the first time in 6 weeks. Go figure.
Yeah. All right, so to start off with, we're going to have some weekly Bugle stuff. There was a leaked patch. Then we have some location updates, new location, eternity range. We've got clip show at the end, and we've got some community decks. So should be a good episode this week. So let's hit the weekly Bugle.
Should say that this week we're trying something new with the clip show where we're not
True.
going to get our reaction to it, and we're just going to end the show.
Yeah.
So people aren't surprised if we don't come back.
Yep.
We're just trying to give more of a platform for the people in
Yeah.
the clip.
Yeah. Because it's about them, not us. So we wanted to make it bigger. So we'll kick it off here with some weekly Bugle. All right, we're back with Weekly Bugle for all the news that's fit to print and some stuff J. Jonah Jameson would even like. So, first off, we got some leaked patch notes. The Korean, I think it was the Korean social media team accidentally leaked these notes, from what I understand.
So they're leaked, but they're kind of official.
Yeah, they're official. It's just a translation. Yeah. So the first thing is they're including Russian language support. I imagine they just had some issue trying to get that done because shortage of translators for that, considering the ongoing crisis.
I was just about to say, given the real life crisis going on. So.
Yeah, so given the war in Ukraine, I'm not surprised that it took a minute for them to get that in there. The next thing they have is, so if you've ever played a game and you just get stuck in these frickin' time loops because some dude plays like 3 cards that all just go beep 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 beep.
Oh, he's holding number sinister.
Yeah. They reduced at least when this patch drops, so don't expect it to be like done now. So if you play and you still get a time loop, don't come over here and go Smokey and Invoke didn't know what they were talking about, because it's not in yet. But they're gonna have those loop triggers shortened, so that you don't have to sit there for 5 minutes waiting to lose. Or I had one this week where I waited 5 minutes to win because I dock-ocked all their cards onto one.
The interesting thing is that this would be the second time that they've nerfed these animations, because they did it in one of the first patches that we did an episode on too.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting if this patch actually fixes the issue. One, because it's the second time that they patched this issue, but also I've been running a lot of a death deck this last week. And I've been noticing some weird lag when it comes to destroying a Nova card. It will take probably a good 15-20 seconds for the Nova card to actually be destroyed.
Yeah.
And the effect to be applied.
Yeah, I've noticed Nova lagging
It doesn't just happen
lately.
with Nova. It doesn't just happen with Nova, but that is the card that I use frequently that gets destroyed. And I've noticed that it takes a good 15-20 seconds for that effect to actually take effect in the game. So I'm wondering if this will fix that issue too, maybe?
Right.
Like I said, it is interesting because this is the second time that they've patched this specific issue in the game. So hopefully this time around actually proves enough where they can move on to a different issue.
Yeah, that would be cool. I know they have a lot of issues identified for these are ongoing, so please don't be surprised.
Yeah. And again, it's not me saying, hey, let's, this is me saying that it is an issue that needs to be fixed. I'm glad they're working on it.
Yeah, especially since it didn't quite get fixed.
I'm glad that they're working on it, right? But also, it'd be nice to see them be able to move on to another thing. So
the next thing we had was they're adding a new, what they call Pro Bundle, and it's for new players. It's a one-time bundle purchase. A lot of games have these as a catch-up mechanic to get you involved quicker.
especially if they've noticed a big uptick in new players.
Yes.
And which would make sense given the hype that the game has had since launch. It's been pretty, it's been getting out there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Game of the Year, Hero, the Winterverse, a lot of stuff to bring in new players.
Yeah. So this just makes sense, and it's another step to growing the player pool and hopefully continuing the success of the game.
Yeah.
You're getting some good stuff. I mean, you're getting like 12,500 credits. You're getting enough boosters to upgrade 8 cards all the way to Affinity, which would like boost your collection level to at least 500. Pretty sure it would go higher than that. At least 500.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to shoot you toward Pool 3 as quick as possible, because once you hit Pool 3, you're in the real shit.
Which again makes sense, because like you said, that's when you're into the real heavy cards.
Yep.
Like, you've got all your base cards collected. You don't have to worry about not having a basic deck.
Right.
And by basic deck, I don't mean the one like gets you in, like one that's competitive once you get into some actual games that aren't just people that really don't focus on strategy.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. I mean, 12,500 credits, that's a lot. That'll definitely get you somewhere. Especially with all those
Plus
boosters.
the credits you get for boosting your collector's level.
Yeah.
You'll get a bunch of credits for that, too.
True. We also found out this week through community engagement, in terms of collector's level, we did find out a little something. So I actually had back-to-back cards in my collector level, like cards, not variants, but like, draw pool cards. And one of the homies from Rascal's chat came in and was helping me with the deck this week, Decacidal. We're actually going to talk about that later. But he was also telling me that the collector's level, the way it works is it's it's groups of 4 caches. So like every 4 boxes will have 1 card in it, which means the maximum you can go without a card is if you got it on the first box, had 3 boxes, 3 more boxes, and then had it. So that you could have 6 boxes potentially between cards if you got it at the beginning of that cycle versus the end. So we checked it out, and because I have back-to-backs in a couple places of my collector's list, it made it possible to see if this was in fact true, and it is. So bear that in mind when you're pushing toward collector caches and stuff like that. Like, if you've had a card recently and you can track before that, where your last card was, and maybe don't push for this collector's cache so hard like I was gonna, because it's not gonna be a card or something. That can make you maybe have some more patience in spending your credits if you know the way that system works. So little update there for that. Yeah, so speaking of collector tokens, they did make an adjustment to how those are gained post Series 3 completion. So most people have noticed you get 100 collector's tokens here and there as you're going up. But it's the total that you get in certain spans that I believe is changing. So once you have Pool 3 complete, so anybody that doesn't have all the Pool 3 cards yet, that's a lot of us, this probably doesn't apply to you as far as I understand it. But the direct quote was, now the number of collector's tokens received by collecting all Series 3 cards with collector's treasures, those are the collector caches, will change. Individual payout tokens are not set at 400, but will be 200 to 600. However, the token acquisition rate remains the same. So what that means is, say across 10 of those caches, you're still going to see the same number of collector's tokens total, but in each individual cache, you might see 200 or 600, 400. Yeah, you can see a bigger or smaller amount. So Ben Brode, the way he said, is that adds to the fun of the whole thing, advancing your collector's level. I mean, I guess I could see that. I mean,
I think I disagree with that.
But I do too.
Seeing the same amount.
Yeah, I do too, because it's now it's just oh man, am I going to be able to get the thing I want? No, okay, cool, because I got 200, as opposed to being able to count on how many you're getting. Now, the flip side of that is if you've had something pinned in your store for a minute, I've had Brood in there for a hot minute and been waiting to get enough collector's tokens, and I'm 200 or 300 shy. And
yeah, I've got Krill or Sprawl. However you pronounce
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And it's like a 6,000 collector point.
Null?
It's gonna be there for a while. That has an R in it.
I don't think so.
Maybe it is null.
KNULL. The one that all destroyed cards, that one? Yeah, that's null.
Yes.
That's
yes,
null.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, null. But yeah, so like say you get 600 when you really need 600. That could be cool. I could see that, you know, not having to advance as much to get something, but at the same time it's pretty RNG and pretty based on like your situation, like where you're at right just then in your collector's tokens necessity, you know. But since it doesn't change anything overall, I think it's just, you know, one of those things that like makes people want to click things more, maybe, and whatevs. But
yeah, it kind of lends to the addiction of like
yes,
getting that collector level up.
Yes,
as opposed
yeah.
to actually helping you.
Agreed.
You're still getting the same amount of.
Agreed. I think it keeps people playing versus necessarily. So I'm fine with the change. It doesn't bother me, and if it helps them get people playing to where the game will succeed and stay around and all that for longer, then you know, fuck it, fine with me.
Exactly.
Now, as far as upcoming changes and stuff to cards, they announced, I think, let me check here, 6, 7, 10 card adjustments. Well, 9 card adjustments and a fixed Orka. What was that?
There's some pretty significant changes.
Yes. So the first one is Orka.
That one they just added to Series 4.
Yeah, they just added it. So the dossier file here that we have has not changed. It's the same as before. He's simply in the game now because from what I understand, they had a code issue with the card and it was breaking and not functioning properly. So they had to remove it from the pool. So what it looks like is they've got it fixed and now it's going to be in the pool. So, you know, standard Atlantean kind of thing, ongoing. If this card is your only card there, you get more power. So you could rogue it. You could Enchantress the spot he's on. You could do a lot of things. But, interesting card. 6 cost, 9 power. I could see its use, but it's going to be very niche.
Yeah, it's a very niche indeed.
Now, the next change is an odd one. They changed Aero because Aero is widely considered the best card in the game. And for good reason, because if you're winning 2 lanes going into turn 6 and you drop this card, you win the game, and your opponent has no clue unless they think you're playing Aero. So the developer comment was, Aero's effectiveness is great for both obstruction and control. Previously, we increased Aero's stats to where it is now, but since players have realized how to use it, we thought it might be a good idea to lower the power a bit. Which seems like the devs have missed the entire point of the card, because her power is not her power, it's getting things away from where you're winning. So you're fully expecting to lose a lot of times at the location you play Aero, you know. So it's kind of a weird situation. And you know, the only time you really play Aero in a full location is if you got like huge amounts of points and you're like, sucker, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or you're trying to like get them to like do their reveals on a Cosmo location or something. I mean, short of that, you know, you're usually playing Aero to just occupy a spot and move their big swing play so that you maintain victory. So changing it to a 7, I don't know what that accomplishes necessarily, but it is a change that's coming. Next up, they made some changes to Galactus, kind of similar.
Yeah, they just made him weaker, right?
Yeah, one power weaker.
Yeah,
he went from a 3 to a 2. Oh no. And
they say they did that because they were seeing the power gains for cubes the swings were too big.
Yeah,
so they're hoping that this will.
Yeah, because Galactus players don't get seen. Like, people can't see it coming allegedly, but I mean, you can. You really can. If going into like turn 5, they just suddenly start snapping and they haven't done shit, it's probably Galactus, especially if they've got one wide open lane. If they Green Goblin and Hobgoblin you at some point, you know, or have an Electro down and one or two of those things, it's definitely Galactus. So, I mean, when the dev said there's too many times you can't see the Galactus play coming, I don't understand.
I mean, I personally don't see Galactus a lot to begin with, so it's like, this change doesn't really, like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess because so few cards are played, they think, oh, you don't know Galactus is coming. But I mean, it's like Infinite, you know? You can tell it's coming because of the stuff that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
I mean, unless in some situations they're just seeing it thrown into random decks that have no strategy.
Fair.
Then what pool of people are they watching these, like, I say watching games, but like what pool of games are they looking at? Are they looking at the high end, where you're more likely to see a proper Galactus play, or are they looking at, you know,
total
sort of closer
data
to my range, where it's like people are just kind of throwing shit together?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny the way you put that, though, saying, you know, throw it in a deck and doesn't really, you know, there's no rhyme or reason, but it's like, haha, Galactus should win it for me kind of thing. Reminds me of another card that we've talked about on this show before. Fucking Leader. But of course, he got nerfed too, and that's coming up.
It's funny, because I've been playing a lot of the Death deck, and this is something that I think we plan on talking about.
Yeah, deck mirroring.
Deck mirroring.
Yep.
I've been seeing a lot of Leader.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because it like almost never beats me, but it's just funny because it's like, screw you, Leader, like, learn your own strategy. Stop trying to copy mine, you know?
Right? Like, stop dick riding. Get your own fucking horse, man.
It's hilarious because they'll usually play Leader like turn 6, right? That's usually the go-to.
Oh yeah.
And my turn 6 is usually when I play Armanzilla. And Armanzilla is only useful if you've got a card that's been buffed to shit.
Yeah, so it just splits crappy cards for them and gives them a 0 power. If anything, it splits their Leader most times. Haha.
So my Armanzilla, that's like, I've been sending you screenshots of me and my Venom split because of Zola. And it's like, my Venom will be like 32 power. Oh, Zola, right? Put 32 power in 2 spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lose 1, but I win 2, so I win the game, right? And then they'll Leader me, and they'll Armanzilla like a fucking squirrel girl or something. And it's like, that was the dumbest play you could have made. Like, you have to know the kind of deck I'm playing. You see me purposely destroying cards. Like, you have to know that there's an Armanzilla coming.
Right. And then
Or a Death.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's a Death, then sure, Leader makes sense. But if I've already played Death, which 9 times out of 10 I have, because I let Armanzilla choose usually between Death or Venom, because those are my 2 like heavy power cards.
Yeah, you're trying to get him out before turn 5 or on turn 5.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I haven't destroyed enough cards to get him out before turn 5, then I'm generally retreating.
Yeah, that's a good strat. Speaking of Leader, though, that's the next one we have up for changes, and he got a similar deal as Galactus, just a reduction of power by 1.
And again, this one doesn't make sense to me because he's so easy to counter. Like, they should have, if anything, give him more power.
Well, I wouldn't want him to have more power because this is the shittiest card in the game. No strat card.
I mean, I don't think he should have, but it's like, why weaken the card that's already so weak?
I guess because, according to them, many players are picky about Leader effectiveness, and the ability to stop the game and make it difficult to play other 6 cards has often been a mixed bag. So, I'm going to lower the power a bit and see if further modifications are needed later. That's the developer comments. I'm assuming Ben Brode wrote them because it's in first person. But, yeah. So, lowering the power, though, when his, idea / response to the situation is, it makes it difficult to play other 6-cost cards, is weird to me because you reduced his power.
unless he's saying it makes it difficult for your opponent.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because you're worried that they're going to copy your most powerful.
No, yeah, that's
theoretically
true.
your most powerful cards.
That's true.
But it's like.
But reducing that by
fine,
1, they
as long
still
as
get a
you-
3 over what you have. So it only works if you've already got stuff there and they don't, or if you've got a lead that amounts to leader.
Or if you have strategy against it, like me and Armanzola, right? Like,
Right.
Copying Armanzola does nothing for most people.
Yeah. And for me, the deck I'm running right now, which we'll see later, a lot of my late turns are playing low-cost cards, or low-cost, low-power cards, because I have Dracula played somewhere, and I'm trying to get the dog shit cards out of my deck. They're only dog shit in turn 6 because they have small power. They would have been great cards if I played them earlier, but I'm just trying to get them out of the way so that the RNG off Dracula hits the big hitters. And then, like, Infinite, Giganto, America, stuff like that. Another one that fucks with leader is Captain Marvel, because you usually play her on turn 5. And then she can move to where they played leader.
That's another card I hate, is Captain Marvel. Oh.
Yeah, it's in my deck right now. She's nasty. I love her. Higher, further, faster, baby.
I love the movie. Hate that card.
Yeah, our next one's Nova, right?
Yeah, this one I'm actually sad about.
Oops.
Because I used it. I used it to kill it, so the change again doesn't really matter. But it's like, why? Why? Because anybody that uses Nova is going to kill it anyway. They've got no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Like,
why change it?
Yeah, making it weaker doesn't make any sense to me at all. Because if anything, that 1/2 allows him to be useful when you can't destroy him. Or alternatively,
like a late game you didn't pick up a Carnage, or you didn't pick up a Venom.
Yeah.
And you need a little tiny push, or they armor, and you can't kill them because they're dicks.
Yeah, and this makes it worse than Wasp, honestly.
Yeah, because at least Wasp, you're not losing any energy.
Yeah, she's free, same power.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this is a weird change. I don't know. Not sure what they were thinking with this, especially because like if you get this from like a random thing or like a Weird World situation or something, I don't know. It could be very possible that this is a card that you're stuck with, end up having to play in an early turn and have no way to get the benefit from, and so now it's just a 1 power sticking up 1/4 of a third of your board. It's a lot.
And the thing is it doesn't even benefit you too much in a Khazar deck because they've lowered the power. So it's like any outside of a death deck, now Nova is completely useless.
Yeah, outside anything with Destro, you're kind of like, what's the point? Yeah. Or you have to carry Killmonger just to kill your Nova later, and then what if you're running anything like Sunspot? So I mean, I could see it, but yeah, I could see it, but only if you're not running anything that Killmonger would destroy, really.
Which again, to me, lowers the effectiveness. It's fine. I'm going to keep it on my death deck because it's a death deck, right? But I'll never use it for anything other than that.
Yeah, agreed. The next one up, we got a couple of Guardians, a couple of different Guardians cards. We got Drax and Groot. We'll start with Drax, but the skinny on this is the developers felt that while you may think the Guardians effects will create a lot of fun, it can also feel like an all-or-nothing game. Very true. And they hope to increase Drax and Groot's base stats to lower the risk of playing the cards and increase their attractiveness in the 3 and 4 cost slots. And I agree with that, because, like, Drax, if you don't predict it, you could have just played Just Jones and left the lane alone and get the same benefit. Or have a lead in the lane and just play Crossbones, stuff like that. Whereas Drax, it's like, I hope they're playing something there. And the thing is, you can't play Spider-Man until the same turn as Drax. So unless you're running like a Zabu kind of situation, there's no way to get Spidey out there to guarantee it's a 50-50 lane push where you're pretty sure they're going to do one of them versus the other, and then you can predict with Drax. But, like, short of that, it makes these cards hard to use. And so when you can't play lane lockers ahead of them, I think it benefits to have them be stronger as a base card. So him being a base 5 power card gets him closer to like a strong 4 power card or the average power of 4 power cards versus being a fairly weak card that requires you to know your opponent and have good predictability, which some people have.
Now, I agree with what you said about Drax, but I do not feel the same about Groot. I think
it's a little less risky on turn 3.
Only a 3 cost, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a little easier to, even if you get the prediction wrong, which you're probably not if you're using a prediction-based deck like this. But even if you do, it's only a 3 cost card, so theoretically you're playing it fairly early. At halfway through your game, you've got time to recoup. Plus, if you're running a Silver Surfer deck, it's going to get buffed anyway.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the changing of Groot, but I do see it with Drax because it's a 4 cost. It's a little harder to.
I think with
balance
Groot,
out with other cards.
I think with Groot though, the thing is, when you're talking, and you brought up a good point, Silver Surfer. So when you're talking like Silver Surfer buffs and stuff like that, which is a very popular deck archetype, you have to remember, Groot gets buffed, but he's still weaker than Maximus. So most decks are going to favor Maximus instead of Groot, and they're going to use more utility 3 costs than strength 3 costs. I think this gets Groot into a more popular position, especially because here's another consideration. At 3 costs,
Maximus over Groot.
I would still take Maximus over him too. The only thing is he makes your opponent draw 2 cards. So if you find yourself in situations where like letting them draw more fucks you, then I could see Groot being more popular and now a more attractive option, knowing that you at least get the 4 power out of him. I'd say the one downside to Groot really though is also potentially an upside depending on how you swing your turn 6. So if you're relying on say like an Onslaught Odin type thing on turn 6, to send it home for Silver Surfer, who may have already been played on turn 5 or something like that along those lines. Let's say turn 6 though, you're not relying on that 6 costy, and you're gonna play Silver Surfer or something in that turn, and you're gonna split. Well, now Groot can be dropped on top of your Wong, because a lot of times in your Silver Surfer decks you're running a Wong or something like that, right? Well, if you play Groot straight up, you're going to hit him before Wong gets on the board, and that's going to be less potential power. But you can get, a +4 instead of a +2 if you drop him on Wong late game. And so he could become like a 3/8, and then you throw Silver Surfer on if you play the order after him. And now you're looking at a pretty big card, pretty heavy hitter.
You're looking at 3/11, which is theoretically stronger than Maximus.
I mean, and Maximus would have gotten a buff too, so he would have been like 3/12, or 3/11.
3/10. 3/10.
Yeah, so he would have been 1 weaker. So yeah, this does give Groot some potential over Maximus if you can lane well and figure out where to play him, or if you're playing him late on top of Wong. Which could be a thing just because someone doesn't have Maximus, you know what I mean? So like, it gives people options that don't have as many of the cards.
See, my strategies tend to be playing against myself more than playing against my opponent. So I tend to not lean on lane predictions, and just focus on what I can do to win.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, Groot, even in a Silver Surfer deck with that strategy, it's like, yeah, he's 1 stronger, but that means that I've got to be very dependent on what my opponent does, and I don't like that.
Well, that's why I was talking about if you play him late turn, right? Because you can play him on Wong and get the buff if you know they're going to play there, or you could play him off of Wong knowing they've given up on that lane, and you have a better prediction chance at turn 6 of knowing where they have to put it.
Yeah, I guess.
So that would undo that, but I think early turns, no. I mean, Maximus all the way probably for me too. Especially because early turns, letting them draw cards, it's like, all right, now I'll know if they're going to beat me pretty fucking early, and I'll know if I got to retreat. I think the real thing is though, none of these cards will ever replace Brood. Like that card's just so damn good.
I still need to get Groot.
Me
man.
too. I can't run a proper Silver Surfer deck because I don't have it, so I just don't run Silver Surfer right now, which makes me sad because I bought him.
Yeah, I've been running too much death to even attempt.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And you think I'd fall in love with Zabu because it fits very well with Kazar, but I haven't even bought this battle pass.
Fair enough. So our next card up is Hazmat. And this is another one that got changed where you're just kind of like, huh? Do you understand this card? Huh? So Hazmat is going from a 2/2, or I mean from a 2/1 to a 2/2. And it's like, bro, it's not a weak card. Like, you're not trying to play it for its power.
It's kind of OP, actually.
It's very OP. So I had a game this week where I was like leading like one lane by 30 something, another lane by like 20 something, and I had Infinite in my fucking hand, and I was spending all my low costies, so like Dracula was gonna be fucking fat. A dude comes in with like an onslaught hazmat fucking Wong situation thing or some shit. No, an Odin, I think. What? Yeah, because he's the reveal one. Odin hazmat Wong situation. I'm just like, really? And he had Mystique too, so it was like 4. It was 4, and then he triggered it again. I didn't have any power. I literally had negative on everything.
I had a very similar experience with him this week, where I had like a 71 power location.
Right.
And he hazmated it, and I'm instantly dead. You know, I instantly lose. Because it's like, so I'm buffing the power.
Yep.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's like, okay, she's not for the 2 power. Like, she could be -4 power and she'd still win you the fucking game. You know? Like, I just don't understand this change at all. You know, is it to try to get you to play Hazmat outside of the curve, in which that's counter to how card gaming works? So, what? But cool character though. So potentially at the hands of Roxxon Corporation, we don't know. Jennifer Takeda now emits radiation if she doesn't wear a suit to contain it. So she like killed her boyfriend and stuff. It's pretty fucking dark, man. Very interesting lore. And then like doubling back on the lore. So I don't think people know the actual Drax story. A lot of people. You get the MCU version, which is like, yeah, his family was killed by Thanos. Blah blah blah. I want to kill Thanos. Vengeance, Thanos. Okay, but here's the cool part from the lore. Drax was just a dude. He was just a dude, no powers, nothing, just a dude.
Yeah.
Who gave him his powers? Thanos' dad. Because Thanos' dad was like, what the fuck have I spawned into this universe? Oh, fuck. Literally seen his son do what his son was doing and went, I can't live with myself knowing I put that into this universe and he's doing what he's doing. So he created Drax the Destroyer. He made Drax the powers he is and all that stuff. Sort of like how in the MCU Thanos made Nebula the way she is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. So Thanos' dad made Drax the Destroyer so that specifically he could fulfill his vengeance, but have the powers to do so and actually maybe take Thanos out and save the universe. So, kind of interesting.
That is interesting, yeah. And it is interesting that like the one that everybody knows is the MCU because it captured like the main screen, right?
Right.
Void.
Yeah. Yeah, no one knows how Thanos chased death. It had nothing to do with perfectly balancing the universe and snapping his fingers and wiping out half of, like, it wasn't about like sustaining life. And, you know, which makes sense because when you stop and think about MCU Thanos, okay, but if you just fast forward the timeline enough again, the universe is full and you have the same problem all over again and no more Infinity Stones to deal with it. So what exactly was your plan, Thanos?
Yeah, they then have to
Right.
find a new
Yeah. Yeah.
MacGuffin to like
Exactly.
do the same thing.
Exactly. So I think MCU Thanos kind of like is a little neutered for what Thanos really was, because he was always courting death. He was obsessed with death, was in love with death, like was just trying to get her attention and shit. Basically, like he was standing outside her window with the boombox over his head like John Cusack and say anything. That's pretty much what Thanos was doing by killing so many people. It had nothing to do with, oh my god, there's too many people in the universe. It was literally like, I'm in love with death and I want to meet her. How can I tell her I love her? I know. I'll give her a lot of people by killing them. Which is pretty fucked up. And I don't think that would have gone over so well in the MCU with like so many kids watching. It's probably why they didn't put that kind of thing. But I think they originally had planned it and then went from there, because in the first reveal, right after Avengers, when like he turns his head and like does that smirk, like it was me all along, not really Loki kind of thing, you know what I mean? He says something about courting death, but they didn't stick with it.
Yeah. Which would have been but again, like when they realized the mainstream effect of the MCU, they kind of had to go a different.
Yeah, once it got so big and it was more about kids and families than just like, and blockbusters and popcorn than just, you know, hardcore fans and shit, then it became more like, okay, can't do that one because that's kind of fucked up. Some kid wants to emulate Thanos, starts murdering people because I want to meet death. You know.
That's not. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have that.
Not a good look.
That's a lot like the program from. It's a football film from the '90s about a college program,
James
football
Caan.
program. Yep, Jimmy Caan, who just passed away recently. May he rest in peace. But that film, there's a scene where like they fuck around standing on a freeway in traffic or something like that, or sitting on the street in traffic or something like that. I forget. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but. I grew up when that was in theaters, and it was all in the news. It was all in like the papers and stuff. Like, it was this huge phenomenon of dumb shit kids doing what they saw in the movie and getting run over by fucking cars, basically. And so I kind of feel like those sorts of events from past films kind of influence decisions today and stuff. So I think that sort of a phenomenon may have influenced why they were like, you know, we can't really have him courting death, man, because that could lead to some bad real life implications. Whereas just trying to get rid of half of all life, it's like that is such an unrealistic goal for anyone to ever try to pursue that no one's gonna just wake up one morning and be like, I'm gonna snap half the universe out of existence because I like Thanos, you know. But let's see. I think our next card is Black Cat. She's an interesting one too.
Yeah, they buffed the power. They increased it by 1.
I know she's here somewhere. No. There we go. All right.
It becomes...
Yeah, 3/7.
3/7 is the 3/6.
Which is really cool because, so the way this card works in a disco deck, and a disco deck is where instead of death, you're going to run Hela, right? The goddess of death, as opposed to actual death. And so in a disco deck, when you're running Hela, Black Cat discards herself when you don't play her out of your hand. Then if you do get Hela and you play Hela, boom, that's a 7 power card that comes out swinging late in the game. But the other issue with Black Cat was because you never really played her, she didn't have a lot of use, and so a lot of times you wouldn't even put her in your hand to discard herself. And especially because if you're, say you've discarded big cards like Infinite and Hulk or something, you're not trying to have some little dinky 6-coster fill up a spot where you would rather have those big cards you know you destroyed played. And so I think having the 7 makes that a little bit more attractive. But the flip side here, in terms of playing cards, is if you get her in your hand at like just the right moment, instead of discarding her, you could play her for power somewhere, which makes her a little more attractive than Swordmaster in some cases. And the reason I say this is because if you play Swordmaster for the power because you need it, he could kill Hela. If you play Black Cat because you need the power, she does nothing. But if you leave her in your hand because you don't need the power, she also doesn't kill Hela, but gives you a nice discard. So I think this change is good. This definitely shows understanding of this particular card, which means like the devs definitely understand some of the cards and how some of them are played. Just maybe they haven't really understood some of them, like Hazmat or something like that, and the way they get played. But this one looks like a good change. She's interesting because she's in the Spider-Man canon a lot, right? She and Spidey have even shared a kiss at one point.
I was gonna say she's a love interest, right?
Yeah. And so what she is she's kind of like the Catwoman of Marvel. Very similar, kind of like good and bad at the same time character. So she's the daughter of a famous burglar, and basically she wanted to get revenge against classic and horrible female character trope from like the 80s and 90s and shit, when these things were made a lot, but and the 70s even. She was raped, and so she wanted revenge against the rapist, kind of thing. And like she trained in martial combat to seek revenge, and so that's how she became like have such prowess. So she's not like gifted with powers innately in any like way. She's just really damn smart and dedicated to things, and will train to be an expert in something. So it's a cool card. Cool history.
And then the last last buff they made was Nakia.
Yeah.
They increased her power by 1. Because they felt like her mechanic was interesting, but she wasn't getting used a lot. So they're hoping that they give her more power. Not much more, but more power.
Yeah.
You might see her more.
Yeah.
This is a card that I used to use when I ran the Devil Dino Moon Girl
Right.
deck.
It's a good one for that.
I haven't used it since.
Right.
So, I mean, could fit pretty well in a Silver Surfer deck. It is a 3 cost, so seeing them buff the power, like, yeah, that makes Cassie,
it's really? Cassie time. It's Cassie time. Once per episode, we get Cassie time, guaranteed.
Does make sense that, you know, they might want to her so that she can start getting used in different situations like the Silver Surfer deck.
Well, yeah, because like right now she's like, it's preferable to just use a Koye because it's going to buff everything. It's going to buff everything that you draw from then on.
The 2 far left cards in your hand.
Right, which could be bad necessarily. You don't even know. And so like a Koye, it definitely has the more attractive like premise and setup, but when you add the power to Nakia to make her the same as a Koye on the field, now that's going to change things a bit because she's not occupying a space that you might wish she didn't. So instead of playing her off lane, now she can lane. And I think that's more appropriate for a member of the Dora Milaje, you know? Like, can't have a weak-ass card be a member of the greatest bodyguard, like, service, I guess it were, in all of the world.
She would be a former member of the Dora Milaje.
Well, she was trained at an early age and groomed to be a member of that. So whatever happened after, that's after, but like she was literally groomed from birth to be in the Dora Milaje.
She's now part of a Black Ops Dora Milaje where she's running an assassin fucking group, right?
Yes, I believe so. But I mean, someone that skilled should not have 1 power.
I mean, I agree.
Like, unless it's Elektra, and that I can understand, because she kills a card. So it's like, all right, assassin.
I can see her being used in different situations now, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't used her since Devil Dino Moon Girl was effective, and that hasn't been effective since...
Oh, that's back. It's back. You Devil Dino Moon Girl with 2 Spideys. So you get 2 Spideys.
I've noticed it a few times, but it's still fairly easy to beat.
Not really. Perry the Pig runs this a lot. So at the high end near infinite, the way they're running it, makes it effective. Give me 1 second. I'll look up the actual list. I was going to put this in next week, but I'll look up the list.
Well, we can save it for next week and just tease that.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll tease it. But the premise is it's got Zabu in it. And the only reason I can't run it is because it also has Quinjet. So it's a Quinjet based situation. But that's what makes it sing, dude, because the Moon Girl cards are now cheap. And then it's also got Sentinel and Collector. Like, it's like a way vamped version of the old Devil Dino situation, you know what I mean? But we will cover that one next week.
And then another thing they did this week in terms of adjustments is they adjusted some zones where there was an issue where Professor X was accidentally changing signs at Oscorp Tower.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big issue to have.
Yeah, if you control that lane early from some kind of energy buff, and then he flips sides.
Never experienced it myself, but that would suck.
I have, and it sucked.
And the other adjustment they made was Warrior Falls will now appear less frequently.
Yeah, they changed the rarity of that location. So if anyone's not familiar, locations do have rarity in terms of appearance. So there's common, uncommon, rare, ultra rare, super rare, etc. And they're moving because I believe it's in uncommon right now, Warrior Falls. So I think they're gonna move it to rare. And I agree with that because that location sucks and nobody likes it, and it ruins games too often.
I'm okay with it because I've been running a death deck, but outside of a death deck, not okay with it.
Yeah, if it's common, it makes you very susceptible to certain kinds of decks, which then increases the prevalence of those decks, which then affects the meta. So I think changing that is good. Because you don't want to have one location prevalence dictate meta outside of event locations, like when it was Gamma Labs past week. So then we have some upcoming store packages that got leaked as well, or no, these didn't get leaked. This is confirmed. This is 100%.
They just announced these. Yeah.
Yeah, these were announced. You can look it up on MarvelSnapZone.com or any of the Snap news sites and stuff.
First pack is a Primal Masterpiece bundle, which includes variants and avatars
by artist Alex Horley. Yeah.
And it's Sabretooth, White Tiger, and Raven the Hunter.
Yeah, so it's good.
Also, it includes 155 boosters for each of the above cards.
Yep. So that should get you to infinite, I think. Because it's like 5, 10, 15. The top 5, is 10, 50.
15, 20, 50.
50, 40, 30. I think. Yeah, that'll get you to infinite. I'm pretty sure. The rough math. I don't want to waste time doing the full math here, but I believe that'll get that card to infinite.
1,500 credits, which would also help you get to infinite on all of them.
Yep.
So the next bundle is the Dino Size bundle, which is a Devil Dino variant by the same artist.
Looks really cool too.
A title. Do not step on me. That's hilarious.
Right. Dino would.
That's absolutely hilarious. 310 Dino boosters. Which, okay. And 5,000 credits. That bundle that seems like a nice little bundle.
Yeah, the 5,000 credits, I might consider that one. The 1,500 credits on the previous one's kind of... Literally, you want those cards and you can upgrade the 3 cards. That's like, fans of those. That's good for them. But this one's just... Yeah, this one gets you 10 cards infinite. So, that's 12 times 10. That's 120 collector level right there. Boom. That's obviously assuming you can do them all infinite. It's not going to work out that way, but,
Yeah, because you probably wouldn't have the boosters for all
exactly.
of them.
But, yeah, I'll probably buy that.
I will say that the cost of these bundles as of right now, as of recording, is unknown.
Yeah, but you got to figure, I would think, based on, this is just speculation, but based on past bundles, I would say that the Primal Masterpiece one's probably going to be somewhere around the range of 50. Because it might be a little less, it might be not. Because
I would assume that one would be less. Dino would
well,
be more.
well. So the Sarah and Angela package that was just up was about 50, and it had some credits, but it was mostly just if you liked the art. But it did have some credits, so maybe that one being only 1,500, maybe that's one of the ones that's like 29. And then the Devil Dino size bundle thing, maybe that one's 50.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably where they would land. I'm going to consider getting the Dino size bundle, especially if it lasts into February. But the costs are unknown at this time. Though typically things like Dino size bundle cost money, but if you see like collector tokens in there, those are going to cost gold. But we don't have any of those on the horizon at this time. And then I think you were looking at the Ben Brode Q&A. Did you have anything interesting from that?
Nothing that really grabbed my that sparked my real interest to bring up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, no worries. In that case, that's all the news that's fit to print, and some of the stuff that would make Jonah Jameson lose more of his hair. And we'll be back with Smoke Strategy for Success. This week on Smoky Strategy for Success, there will be a link in the not the comments, but in the description and all. So please check that out. It's way too much data to put here, but I played hundreds and hundreds of games to check this out. So it's not a small sample set. It's not bullshit data. It's not confirmation bias. Let's just preface with that. Because what I'm about to say is probably going to sound controversial, or it's going to ruffle some feathers, or it's definitely going to trigger, that's confirmation bias. That's remember the hits and forget the misses. That's something effect. It's not. My background for where I designed how to do an experiment like this and not be full of shit is before I went to school for English and writing and all that. Originally I went for philosophy, and so I've done all the logic courses. I aced those. I'm good at that stuff. So I know my fallacies. I know my all that stuff to keep this experiment on point and not have confirmation bias. So what I did is I played 20 games a set with a specific deck, and then I would swap to another deck. I had community come in and give me different decks to run. I ran different decks I designed. Common I guess trope decks, not really meta decks necessarily, because like my Surfer doesn't have Brood and stuff like that. But so what we're really talking about here with deck mirroring and whatnot is not so much, oh my god, the game has a deck mirroring system, it shouldn't, blah blah blah. Nah, I don't care about that. I think it actually works really well once I discovered what it does. But this can teach you the value in swapping decks periodically. Like if you are running a specific deck that you love so much that you just run that all the time, and then you kind of come up into like, man, I'm just having a bad run of luck. Maybe it's less a bad run of luck than deck mirroring. And so swapping to another deck that you're good at, that you're familiar with for a little bit can kind of give you a refreshing change of pace, and you might not see the same stuff. And I think that helps contribute to avoiding tilt, because playing the same deck, getting mirrored like that over and over, you can get frustrated because you're like, God damn it, that same play beat me again, or God damn it, how many of these motherfuckers are running this shit, or, and you can avoid that. You can avoid getting yourself into a tilty situation like that. So, basically, after several hundred games, it was pretty clear there is some kind of mirroring, deck matching sort of system in the MMR. And one of the things we found is you definitely see certain deck types when you play specific decks. So, like, when I played, for example, Patriot type decks, ongoing decks, I saw a lot of Patriot decks But I also saw a lot of like tech decks, that like counter Patriot decks, can fuck up your buffs and shit like that. When I played tall decks, decks that have big numbers versus a lot of like small numbers that add up, but like big numbers on a few cards as opposed to solid numbers on many, I saw fucking tons of Shang-Chi. In fact, that's what started this experiment. Was I was playing a very tall Wakanda Forever deck, and last season I climbed a Vibranium in like a couple handfuls of games playing that deck, and then I kept playing it, but I kind of just stayed in Vibranium, couldn't really crack Omega with it, and then one day I saw, and more importantly predicted, it's not just that I saw them, I predicted something like 9 or 12 Shang-Chi plays in a row. I don't remember offhand, but again, the link will be in the description so you can actually check out the data yourself. But yeah, I saw and predicted all but one of them, all but one of those Shang-Chis. And it was because I'd be leading going into turn 6, and I'd have snapped, and then they counter snap, and I'd be like, God damn it! Because I know it's Shang-Chi, because I know they're going to hit my fucking big card. And it's like, even if they hit that one, and I play like, say, Taskmaster, right, turn 5, which would copy the last card played, even if it's dead, doesn't matter, but I'm not going to win the third lane now. You know what I mean? So, like, I kept retreating. And so I saw all these Shang-Chis in a row. And I fucking got really irritated. Like, tilty irritated. And I was just like, God damn it. What do I got to do? Because, like, I can predict them and make the best play possible in that situation. But that best play possible was retreat loss, like, fucking 9 times in a row. And so while I'm not losing 8 cubes until that last one, where I was just like, okay, didn't even see Shang-Chi coming there. That deck looked nothing like a Shang-Chi deck. And someone in chat that day was like, well, Shang-Chi can kind of fit in everything. And I'm like, I understand that, but I was talking about like the cycle of the plays, the way it worked. Like, they snapped on like turn 2 or turn 1 or some shit. So I just snapped when I was tall, and then they had Shang-Chi or something like that, where I was like, okay, well, no prediction there for that, right? And that's fine. So what I did is I swapped decks and started this experiment, and we found that, like, for example, I never saw Wong, Tiger, Odin, or like Wong, Zola, stuff like that. Those big ones, like you've been playing this week, right, with like Venom and shit. I never saw those running buff decks, which use a lot of wide cards, right, as opposed to tall cards. So you're going wide instead of tall. Now, in that scenario, I never saw those big swing plays like Zola Tiger, shit like that, like, or Odin Tiger, Wong, or like Zola, Wong and Black Panther, shit like that. I never saw those. I never saw those. Like maybe 1 or 2 tops in the 20 game set for those decks. Whereas I was seeing them all the time when I would play a tall deck, like all the time. So, what I think really is happening here, and why I'm not mad at this shit, because, like, again, this isn't me going, oh my god, there's deck mirroring, there's deck matching, oh my god, change the game. No, I like it. I got nothing against this. And the reason I say this is because imagine going into tall decks with wide decks without tech over and over and over again. There's literally nothing you could do. You just lose and lose and lose and lose. So if you're always matched up against them, it would make you want to have to play either a counter deck or want you to play the same deck. And so what I think they've tried to do here with this MMR, this little hidden stuff, and they've said there's hidden MMR aspects, and I think this might be one of them. I think what they're trying to do here is make the game competitive, but at the same time make it so that you're not queuing into player pools where, despite your skill, you get your ass handed to you because you're playing a specific deck that you find fun and works, but doesn't work against one kind of thing or something, you know what I mean? And so they typically don't match you against that one kind of thing a bunch, which I find interesting. Though someone here might say, okay, but Shang-Chi against your deck was getting mashed against one kind of thing. No, that was a mirroring situation. They were running the same decks, they just also had Shang-Chi in it. But
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sort of like the typical like meta, right?
Sorry, what was that?
That it's just like just a luck of the draw that you could have, just that they had a Shang-Chi in that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so basically after seeing, decks that like played well against me that I could beat that had Shang-Chi's, right? That's when I was like, okay, something might be happening here. And then I investigated. And so we'll post the data, and I'd be down to see what other people come up with if they can collect more data. But one of the things that, just to be aware, after I hit Vibranium last season and I decided to do this experiment, I went all the way down to Plat. Yeah, I fell all the way down to Plat doing this experiment. So bear in mind, I lost cubes specifically to see what cards they have, specifically to make sure I could identify the deck like to the T as much as possible, so that like there wasn't like any kind of like gappy data or sparse data where you could be like, well, I don't think it's really deck mirroring. No. I lost a shitload of cubes doing this to make sure this was as accurate as possible. And the fun part was I played a deck a homie gave me after that, and it took me it was a PerrythePig deck, and it took me 59 games to get back to Vibranium. So don't be afraid to swap decks. That's the lesson there. Don't be afraid to swap decks, because even if you fall, you can make it back up. But yeah, so that's pretty much.
Yeah, I started this season in bronze.
Right.
I'm almost to flat.
Yeah, because you didn't really play a lot last season, I remember.
Yeah. And I haven't made plat since first season.
Nice.
So.
Very nice. But yeah, so that was my smoky strategy for success for this week. And next up, we will hit Invoke's accessible vacation locations. We're back with accessible locations, and this week we had what we have.
We have Gamma Labs and Eternity Range.
Now, these were interesting because they both spawn cards. I thought, or change cards. They have a card association anyway. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they both have very similar. You can use them to your benefit with very similar strategies.
Right.
So
right.
Both of them you can with low cost decks like a Khazar deck or a
right.
Silver Surfer deck. Or, well, maybe not a Silver Surfer deck because you're relying 3 cost buff. But like if you got cards that don't necessarily fit your typical strategy in your deck, throw them in Gamma Labs, you get some easy 12 power cards.
Hi, Cassie.
Right. So.
Cassie wants to be a Hulk.
Yeah, with the Eternity Range, you get rock.
Yeah.
If you lose the location, you get rock.
Yeah, if you lose that location, you will smell what that rock is cooking.
Which works if you're running something like Death, because you can use those rocks by just placing them down and destroying them with a Carnage, or Venom.
They're also nice in a buff deck.
Yeah, also nice in a buff deck because you can buff those rocks to give you more power.
Yep.
Which is why they can use very similar strategies because they also work well with death deck because you can destroy them and it will lower the cost of death.
Yeah. Gamma Lab, you see a lot of Shang-Chi's to counter those.
I personally like not filling Gamma Lab, like put 3 cards in there, and then have 1 spot open to like roll a Venom.
Yeah, you could do that.
And then Zola him on and then Zola him on turn 6.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty. I think stuff like that's why I was running the Shang-Chi for Gamma Labs, so I could just kill their Hulks.
Yep. Yep. That would be. I mean, that's a pretty easy counter to it.
And it got stronger and easier to run too, with some power in the later turns because Zabu. So just running Zabu pretty much lets you play Shang-Chi for 2, and I mean, if you can play Shang-Chi for 2, you can still get a 4-cost card off on 6 that's powerful enough to, do something. Or, you can combo a 2 and a 3 on turn 5, or if you have other 4-costies that are powerful too, So that was kind of an interesting one. Eternity Range. Yeah, go ahead.
Both very similar with strategy usage.
Well, Eternity Range for me, I was playing the deck I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but the Decacidal deck. But so for Eternity Range, I just didn't care about the rock. It really just didn't matter for me. It shows up, it doesn't show up. I really don't care because I was either going to not lane there, or I'm playing. So the deck I was running with Dracula, you have the option to just put Dracula next to the rock, and it makes the lane look really weak or questionable. They might leave it alone, and then Dracula gets big at the end. Drop any kind of mid card, there. Other than that, you're pretty good to go. And then you build up the lane that I would play my Lockjaw on, by dropping Wasp and Jubilee and stuff. And that would be the one that actually had numbers. So a lot of times the rock just didn't get in the way. So I'd let myself lose the Eternity Range, knowing that they would go hard there, and it would give me the other 2 lanes to push, or at least see their concentration at Eternity Range. And once they've concentrated some power, you kind of have better predictability, I feel.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of two lane pushes, especially with the Death Deck and Zola combination.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to be able to do late, when someone else has to make one big play, because then it's telegraphed. Whereas, if you're gonna split push, you can make a lot of plays, and they're like, shit, I can get hit by a lot of shit here. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Well, anything else you want to add to the locations?
No, I think that pretty much describes them.
Cool. All right.
If you see them, those are the strategies you can use to win them, basically.
Yeah. All right, well, next up, we've got Super Squads, where we're going to take a look at a couple Avengers level threats and a Defenders level threat, and then we've got, for counterculture, we got Countering Rogues, so we'll be right back with that. The first threat we've got is a Avengers level dynamic duo threat from the Super Squads list, and this is Aero Kingpin. So we were just talking about Aero before, and in the graphic we still have her listed as an 8 power because at this time she still is. At time of recording, the patch that got leaked is not out. So that being what it is, this one's really strong because you play Kingpin on turn 3. And it's like, yeah, they can still lane there, but what it makes them have to decide is something like this. So you play Kingpin turn 3. They're going to figure, yeah, you're rocking an Aero deck or something that kills things that come to Kingpin. And so their first thought is going to be, well, I could play a shitload of stuff there now and try to secure that lane early and then go for another lane. But knowing that you're going to Aero, they're going to want to fill up that lane because there's less stuff you can yank last turn into that lane. But everything Aero pulls into the Kingpin lane dies. So, the fact he's only a 4 power, not that big a deal. The fact that they only combine for a Hulk in total, not that big a deal. Because unless they start laning where you put the Kingpin, you're going to kill everything that comes there. Now, the flip side is they're gonna want to lane on that Kingpin. If they do lane on that Kingpin, well, you can't just Aero to kill everything. But because they lane on the Kingpin, you might know which 2 lanes you're winning, and you can Aero to get your victory at that point.
Yep.
And then the next one we have is one that would work good for the deck you've been running this week.
I was just thinking that myself.
Yeah, we've got another Avengers level. What's this one?
So this one is Death and Sabretooth.
Oh, that's nasty.
I run the dirty little cousin of this, I guess you could say, where it's like I run Wolverine in my death deck.
Right.
This is, I would say probably a better version of that, but because his ability is he gets cheaper, right?
Yeah, he's free to play after you kill him, so you can keep putting him down and killing him, and making death.
And after the first time,
weaker.
He doesn't cost you to play.
Yeah.
So, whereas Wolverine does cost you to play.
Yeah.
But, I think I would probably still keep Wolverine. I would probably just slot Sabretooth in with another card, like instead of putting like a, I don't know, probably like an Electra.
Yeah.
I'd probably get rid of Electra
for
Sabretooth.
Yeah, because she doesn't guarantee a destruction anyway.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, flipped early. Yeah.
So, like, this would be an interesting, because that would be an interesting combo for, like, Wolverine, Death, Sabretooth, with Venom, with Carnage. Like, that would be a brutal...
Yeah, and one of the things with Carnage and Sabretooth, like, because, now that you mentioned Carnage, Venom, he's going to retain that 4 power. Carnage is not. So, when you eat Wolverine with Carnage, you still get the 3 power again because he splits, but it's randomware, right? Okay, cool. And stuff like that. But there's other cards you're going to end up, in your hand sometimes where you're like, fuck, if Carnage eats that, that's not very efficient. But Sabretooth, the overage doesn't matter because you get him free again. So you still get to play that 4 power.
So, like, in my deck, I should send you a screenshot of my deck.
Yeah.
But my deck, I'll use Carnage to kill things like Nova, Bucky Barnes, things like that are weaker cards.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'll let Carnage do all the weak kills. Then I'll throw Venom on top of that.
Yep.
Then he will kill Winter Soldier, which is a 5 power.
6.
He'll kill 6 power, sorry. He'll kill Carnage, which, if I've played my cards right, will be an 8 power. Possibly a 9 power if he kills Nova.
Right.
So, like, that alone will get you 15 power out of Venom. Plus anything else that's in that another card that's in that location, like a demon, because another card I will let Carnage kill with my hood.
Right.
It's a -2, right?
Yep.
So, like, I don't want Venom to eat a -2 because that will make him weaker.
Right.
But Carnage doesn't matter because he doesn't absorb power. So he's a good one to kill Hood with.
And Sabretooth's nice because if you did have to kill, say, the Hood with Venom, but you also put Sabretooth down because he's free at that point, it kind of undoes it carnages out for Venom killing Sabretooth at that rate.
Yep.
Excuse me.
And I actually have Sabretooth, I believe, so I could slot him in my deck.
Oh yeah, he's an early pool card if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool, pretty nasty combo. I seen someone use to great effect this past week actually, so I was like, oh damn, we should talk about that because death decks are pretty popular at the moment.
I mean, I've been really enjoying it.
Yep. Next up, though, we have a Defender's level threat, a little bit smaller cost combo, but this one's pretty nasty too. So we got Invisible Woman and Wong for a Defender's level threat. And on the surface, it's like, yeah, so? But if you play Invisible Woman, they don't know what you're doing. the common thought right now is if you see Invisible Woman, they're probably playing Wong. But you could do a lot of things underneath an Invisible Woman, out of sight, out of mind, and then totally hit your opponent on turn 6 when they're like thinking they're super strong with that double snap on them, you know. So the way this works is playing her on turn 2 lets you do whatever you want in that lane. And so when you play Wong, they don't know you've got Wong. You're still getting the benefit of Wong. Just they have no fucking clue what's going on. And then when all that shit flips over on turn 6, all of a sudden it gets really fucking bad for whoever snapped into that with you and didn't see this coming. So while it could be somewhat predictable, the flip side is playing Wong naked is way more predictable. And someone like me running the deck I'm going to talk about in a minute here, well, I'm just going to Doc Ock the Wong lane and make that shit play all out of order, or put in cards that you had no plan to put on Wong or have no use there, and it's just going to get really ugly really fast. Or I'm just going to avoid that lane. Or I'm going to run a tech card and I'm going to counter Wong with Rogue by stealing it, Enchantress by turning it off, you know. So, or playing Cosmo to nullify what any card does underneath Wong. So, I mean, literally all 3 of the major tech cards just nullify Wong, make him very easy to counter. So if you want to run a Wong deck, it's almost imperative you run Invisible Woman at this point.
I've witnessed Invisible Woman once, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that was in the Hazmat boss.
Yep.
That I experienced.
Wong Hazmat.
So.
Yep.
She's a nasty card, man.
Yeah. So you just gotta assume. You just gotta assume some kind of Wong shit's going on under Invisible Woman, and you don't want any part of that. The flip side is you can steal her ongoing, and you know that makes Rogue a powerful tech card right now. And Enchantress can, you know, obviously stop it, but stealing it lets you shield what you're doing now, and that could be fun. So that's all our super squads that we have for this week. But we did just mention who we're going to be talking about in counterculture, and that's Rogue. And it's not who counters Rogue, it's holy shit, Rogue counters a lot of stuff. So we'll be right back with counterculture. The first one we have is Rogue versus Zabu. This was something that I was using in a deck we've got in the community decks segment coming up. Locked Ocean by ARedOcean, who was a guest previously, so y'all should be familiar with him. Rogue got really popular on Battle Pass launch, so I was actually live when the Battle Pass kicked over and the new pass launched, bought it on stream, all that stuff, and instantly it was Zabu everywhere. Zabu, 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 rawr, Zabu, Zabu. And I'm just like, God damn, man. But I mean, that's what you would expect, right? Everybody just paid $10 for that card. They're going to run it. So I was like, fuck, what do I do here? Oh yeah, I got Winter Variant Rogue. So even though I didn't have the base card, teehee, I actually have the base card now, which kind of sad because I would rather have Brood since I have a variant I can play anyway. So I threw Rogue into a deck that Ocean gave me that locks lanes. And let me tell you, I just kept stealing Zabu's buff, and that just ruined people's time, man, because their whole deck was built around 4-cost cards and casting them, you know, at will, ad nauseum almost, you know, and well, that really fucked that up. But the other flip side of that was the deck I was running didn't have anything powerful in it, so everything benefited from stealing the Zabu buff. So it was really, really strong against the Zabu deck. Next up, we have Rogue versus Patriot decks. This one's fun. So, I mean, you can imagine there what kind of goes down with that. Because there's 3 cards, right, that you typically see that have ongoings for the Patriot deck, right? There's Blue Marvel, which is going to give you the most benefit if you steal it, because you're not necessarily running a no powers card deck, you know. But Blue Marvel buffs everybody because he doesn't care. He gives everybody +1. So if you steal that, you're removing, you know, a significant amount of power and adding a significant amount of power to your side in one swing. That's pretty nice. Then obviously versus Patriot, it undoes his stuff, and if you happen to have any cards that don't have powers, now they get, you know, buffed. And then Mystique, she'll have copied one of those 2, and you can just steal Mystique.
Yes.
So Rogue's pretty good there. Pretty good there. Next, we got Rogue versus Card Totalers. Sum total cards. That's cards like Devil Dino, Ronin, Darkhawk. And these are all cards that, when played, get their power from an ongoing that is based on the sum total of opponent cards in hand in deck or your cards in hand in deck, etc. kind of thing. So with Devil Dino, we were talking about that one earlier, falling a bit out of favor. It's a little bit more these days, so Rogue could see some good use there, especially if you're playing a deck where you have cards in hand at the end, because you could steal Devil Dino's ongoing and make it yours, and now suddenly Rogue goes from a 3-1 to a 3-1 +2 for every card you got. Ronin, the inverse, so that could be even cooler to steal with Rogue, because it's going to take all the cards they have in hand. So if they're running Ronin and Devil Dino to, like, you know, insulate themselves or something, steal Ronins, and now it's like, you know, you get all their cards. So if they had Moon Girled and you steal that, that's pretty nice. And then Darkhawk, that's the one that's based off of total number of cards remaining in opponent deck. And that can be good in something where you're throwing like Rock Slide, like a Secret Santa kind of deck. Or what is Debris, you know, because she fills up their side, so less space to play cards. Korg puts a rock in their deck, shit like that. Anything where like they get more cards in their deck, that's good for Darkhawk. And
Lockjaw deck.
Yeah.
Because it puts the cards back in your deck.
Yeah, I mean it pulls one out, but yeah, it puts a card back in, so they're filling up their side while their hand's full. So yeah, these could be powerful against that. So, you know, Rogue stealing their abilities could be good. Then the last one we have is a card we talked about that's going to get changed upcoming is Galactus, but Rogue versus Galactus. Now on the surface, I hear you already. You're like, Smokey, you beautiful motherfucker. That's not an ongoing card. That's an on-reveal card. Yes, true. But the card you follow up with is Null, because where there's Galactus, there is Null. Why? Because Null assumes the power of every card destroyed in the game. Yes, so...
Why I want him.
Yes, so if you destroy 3 Hulks, well, dude's sitting on 30-some power. If you destroy, you know, whatever there is, a death, that's another 12 power. Everything that's destroyed, whatever power it had.
Entire deck because of the Terminus.
Yep. Yeah, if Lamentis comes up, destroys your deck, Null becomes huge. Lamentis. Yeah, Null Death deck could be nasty on an event for that again. But yeah.
I'm so bad. That's a lot.
Yeah. Being a pool 5 card, he is expensive. But sexy. There's a lot of nullified variants for cards out too, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, Rogue can steal that. So if someone's playing Galactus or you're running into Galactus a lot, you got a Rogue in your deck. They play Galactus, you drop Rogue, and you know if the turn has to flip favorably. That's the only thing. But if it flips favorably, Rogue just goes and takes Null's ability, and now she's huge. And she's actually huger because she has 1 power and he has none. So that's actually kind of cool. But that'll bring us to the deck of the week, which is Decacidal. We talked about this a bit.
Yeah, this is your deck, correct?
Yeah, someone helped me build this. I called it Decacidal because the homie that helped me build it is Deacidal_gaming, and he's from Rascal's community. We had a clip from Rascal last week. Also, shout out to Rascal. Congrats on making affiliate. He worked really hard at that, and we got him there, and he's killing it. So, good to see. Now, Decacidal, this deck is fun. Funny. Oh, that was funny. Oh my god. On the surface, it's got some cards that make you go, why? Like, I've got Omega Red in there. Well, Omega Red is the flex card to start with. So, if you're not comfortable with Omega Red being in there, you can put Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi has a lot of value depending on what you're seeing. If you're getting beaten by big cards a lot rather than locked locations, Shang-Chi. If you're getting beaten by locked locations, Omega Red. And the other thing with this deck is you have Zabu, but you don't have tons of 4-costers. You only have 3. But the key element here is Zabu can get your Dracula and Jubilee out on the same turn. And that can be a big power swing because Dracula is effectively a 6, 10, 9, 14, or 20, depending on what you're leaving in your hand at the end of the match. Because as you can see, Captain Marvel through Infinite there on the list are all those big number cards. So, with Captain Marvel being the smallest, obviously. So, like, if you're really lucky, what happens is you have Sunspot in hand at the start, and you throw him on the right lane, let him do his thing, get killed, buff, whatever. Now, if you don't draw him early, you can also use him with Lockjaw, as opposed to trying to get him out and soak up energy. If you get Lockjaw and Wasp, since Wasp is free, on turn 3, you can have a very big power swing. Very big power swing. You pull Infinite or Giganto or something out, and, well, baby, you got a stew going. And so, like, all of that right there is just powerful in and of itself. But if you can Lockjaw with Jubilee, now you get 2 cards. You know, whew, that's a huge power swing. And if you had managed to play Zabu, then Lockjaw, and one of those cards, and then the next turn drop, you know, one of those cards and something like that is very, very powerful. But you don't always necessarily get to drop Zabu and Lockjaw. Sometimes you have to decide. But the other thing is turn 5. Now, turn 5 is interesting because you're either going to Captain Marvel prepping for a lane swing, or there's going to be one lane that's just wide open, just juicy, empty, and you just throw Doc Ock there and just ruin their turn 6, because the point isn't to win with Doc Ock on that lane. It's to keep them from being able to do whatever they were going to do on the other 2 lanes the next turns. And so oftentimes that'll ruin their plays. And it'll ruin their plays in just, like, hysterically funny ways. I think that's the play. Time to get those cubes? Fuck yeah. Hey, speak of Captain Marvel. I guess I could have got... Oh! Oh! Alfred Molina just shows up like, I'm going to disable the next card you play. No fucking way! This deck is too much fucking fun! Oh my god! Oh my god, I'm laughing so hard there's tears. My god, that was beautiful. Oh my god. You can't believe the stuff that happens with this sometimes, you know, like ruining a Wong Odin or, you know, all kinds of stuff. Pull out Silver Surfer, you know, on a lane that doesn't give them enough to win. All kinds of random stuff can happen. That's fun. But yeah, so that's like the turn 5. Then turn 6, America, the deck stuffer, she pops out if you didn't already pull her out with like Lockjaw Jubilee situation. And then, so what you're hoping to have here in hand at this point is Infinite Gigano, America, and then either or Captain Marvel, Doc Ock. And if you didn't play Doc Ock because it wasn't super advantageous, well, he's worth 10, so that's not bad. That's not a bad swing. And so, if you have any low costs in your hand at this point, you get rid of them. Well, that can be handy because say you played Lockjaw early. Well, if you Zabu turn 6, you can still play a 4 cost card, and you can still throw Wasp or Sunspot into Lockjaw and get something else out if you have something else out worth a shit. So getting all these small cards out late is easy, and then once they're all out of the hand, you know, just played wherever the fuck helps you, or just to get them out, doesn't matter as long as you play them where it's going to help you first. And then if that, you know, is full or you can't waste the space there, just chuck it wherever the fuck, because now all you have are big costies and big powers in your hand. And Dracula goes, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I'm going to beat this other guy by draining you. And then that's that. And so then Dracula assumes their power, can't be Shang-Chi'd, bickety bam, win-win. Because that's the nice thing about Dracula. You get a powerful card that it's really hard to Shang-Chi. You have to have a favorable flip and assume that Dracula's going to get that big. And because I think technically, I don't think it even works that way. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure because he assumes that at the end of the turn, Shang-Chi's already played. So I think that's what makes him immune to Shang-Chi. It's really nice. Really, really nice.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a pretty nice strategy.
Yeah. And then the way Omega Red works is if you're, like, you know, pulling out your Infinite or something early, and it's like, ha ha ha, I'm ahead on this lane by like 1,000,000, you put Omega Red there, and the ongoing adds 4 to all the other lanes, which can help you win a locked lane, a close lane, etc. Especially if you don't have room to put them there. Or if, for instance, it's real close on your Lockjaw lane, but if you drop Omega Red there and pull out another card, you know it's going to be Wasp, right? Because you already did that with Wasp earlier or something. Then you can play Omega Red at the big lane and still get a +4 there. But alternatively, like I said, that's the flex card. You can play Shang-Chi there and be able to take out big cards in late turns, especially if you've Doc Ocked and pulled big cards onto Doc Ock. So that's a nasty combo. So that's covered deck of the week, and we will be back with Superhero System, where we talk about the poker of the whole thing. We're back with Superhero System, and this week what we're going to talk about is when to click the finish turn button at various points in the game. First up, we're going to talk about the early turns, 1 through 3. And waiting too long to take or finish a turn here, like, almost always leads to getting snapped on. Going back to decacidal deck, a lot of times I'm trying to make decisions early because you've seen like Zabu versus Lockjaw or stuff like that. I'm doing some thoughts ahead for the end game, and people will oftentimes read that as Smokey doesn't know what he's doing, or oh, Smokey's fucked, or I'm winning and he knows it. He's trying to figure out how to beat me and he can't. So then they snap. So a lot of times that decacidal plays into what we're going to talk about here in terms of waiting too long to finish a turn between turns 1 and 3 almost always leads to getting snapped on. It can work in your favor if you have a deck where you actually have to think during those turns, as opposed to most decks that autopilot through turns 1 through 3 and then really become, late curve decks with tall cards or something like late,
Mm-hmm.
So then you're going to want to try to finish these turns early otherwise, though, just to show confidence in your draw, regardless of your actual feelings on your draw. So even if you think you drew weak here, just pretend you're confident and play the hands, quickly through the early turns if you can, and don't have to think about it too much, because that'll allow you to stay in the hand longer. Now, conversely, if you think you're gonna win, then you can use this to bait out a snap, and that makes that a viable tactic to push the pot to 8 cubes by turn 6, or push the pot to 4 cubes if they don't, snap, or if you don't want to snap back yet or something for some reason. But they're going to do it thinking that you're being indecisive, but really you're baiting them, laying a trap, and now they've just walked into it, and because they don't even see it, they didn't see it coming, they don't know, they're not going to be able to retreat out after having snapped back too, so you're just going to collect them cubes. So if you're feeling the strength of your hand is enough to push the opponent off a 2-cube pot, but not enough to want to try to see the flip up to turn 6, you might consider snapping if they hesitate to finish their turn 3 or so, because you can push them off that 2-cube pot if someone's already snapped or something, and kind of just go, hey, I'm pretty confident, boop, I'm going to snap, and then, you could push them off. And so I think like these are like viable tactics that sometimes people don't really think about when they're just thinking about the stats on the cards and the fact that, at turn 6 we get our totals and all that, but each turn matters. How you play each turn matters, and the timing is everything. Going back to when we were talking about Shang-Chi. Oh, go ahead.
Also, drawing out your, not clicking end right away can sometimes lead to retreats, because people will get scared of okay, what strategy are you thinking about? That's true.
You can also bait somebody to retreat just because you're thinking, and thinking means exactness. That's at least the way it calculates out in the opponent's head. They think that you're being deliberate, not indecisive in those cases, and in those cases they will probably retreat. But the whole hesitation thing and feeling the strength enough to push someone late versus early, and all that we were talking about, going back to Shang-Chi, in a previous talk we were talking about knowing that you can hit that onto someone. So like in a Zabu deck, you can play them a lot earlier, right? Someone might snap into your bait, your hesitation, and then you've got that tech card or that counter card or whatever you've got, because a lot of them are 4 costs, Enchantress, Shang-Chi, and you could sit there and go, hey, by the way, boop, right on the nose, boop, and just knock them out after they've already snapped into you, so you can bait them with stuff like that, like Shang-Chi plays and things like that, where they're really confident and you're like, surprise, motherfucker, But a lot of that happens between turn 1 and 3 before you really have a beat on your opponent and before they really have a sense of what you're doing completely. Because you're not going to have dropped Zabu till the end of this phase we're talking about. And so they're not going to know necessarily that you're about to hit them with the old 1-2 on turn 4. And you can really bait out the cubes at this point. Granted, you don't want to be trying to top deck, or anything like that, and drawing out in a crucial way when you're trying to do this, because you can walk backwards yourself into 8 cube losses because you tried to get a little tricky when you didn't read your opponent enough or correctly, and now you're committed to this big loss and there's nothing you can do about it. So you got to be careful about that. That said, turns 4 through 6, especially 5 and 6, are like really crucial to a lot of decks, especially things that curve late as opposed to early.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So like waiting longer to finish a turn during this phase of the game is more like what Jared was talking about having the potential for earlier, where someone like retreats in the early turns thinking that you're not weak, you're just thinking and you're being deliberate, so that means you know what you're doing. Waiting longer on these turns most times shows that you have strength because you're being deliberate. You're mathing, min-maxing. You're doing everything possible to figure out where you will get the best effect for the biggest bang for the energy kind of thing, and the best countering, and etc. That said, your opponent will often retreat in the face of those long pauses, like Jared was saying, because they're going to fear that next level thinking they assume you're doing, when really you were taking a bong rip or something. Who knows? Most people aren't super quick at doing math in their heads either. I'm not, from autism and thinking in pictures and not getting diagnosed early enough in life to develop a system for thinking of numbers in head. So I do really good estimations. But exact numbers I'm bad at doing quickly. I can estimate within a fairly accurate plus minus that's useful for estimations, but I can't do exact math with that same speed. So for a lot of players, because most people aren't very quick at math in their heads, they tend to view those long pauses as an indication that you're like double checking your homework, making sure you have it lined up just right to beat the opponent. And so that's where it starts looking like potential strength here, is because they're not separating themselves from their own assessment of the other player, and they're going to let the fact that they're slow at math, or that they're projecting that onto their opponent, thinking they're going to do the same thing. Or in the case of me, I know I'm slow at math, but I do it exact if I take my time. That's something other people are going to think of too, and they're going to, unless they're a quick mather and already have it done, they're going to see that as, oh, this guy's got me beat, and they're going to just peace out. So a lot of times, you want to be like, haha, I've got the nuts, I've got this whole shit locked down, boom, end turn 6, bitch. And then they're like, retreat, and you're like, ah, fuck, and you get like, 2 cubes, 1 cube. You could add 4, or you could have had 8, Whereas, like, if you just wait a second, even though you know what you're doing on turn 6, just wait a second. Just wait. Because that'll guarantee, like, and I'm not saying wait forever, though. Because remember, we already said, you wait too long, they're going to retreat. But you don't want to be too quick either, because they're going to retreat. You want to hit that sweet spot of just, like, wait, like, a couple seconds, like, boop, and then hit it. Just, like, not quite right away. And that'll look like you didn't math it out completely, but it'll also look like you didn't know you were already winning going in. So haha, boom, insta GG, easy. You know what I mean? So bear that in mind when you're playing the button on turn 6, I think. But if you're not completely sure about your hand, I've gotten a lot of free cubes this way. Just chilling for a second and doing the math, or looking like you're doing the math, and getting that retreat, it can help you push opponents off hands you're not completely sure on. Because you know what? Think about how many times you have the nuts versus a decent hand you have to math. That's most of the time that you didn't retreat by this phase, right? So you're going to be sitting there doing this math. You're going to be, not 100% sure a lot of times on that. And it's going to go back to the coin flipping we've talked about before for pot odds and things like that. But I think you run into this situation and you can push an opponent off of a hand that he is equally unsure of simply because it looked like you were taking your time to math it out and gave enough time for them to realize, I should probably just retreat then, huh? And so a lot of times when you're unsure of a hand, just a little bit waiting to see if they retreat on that last turn can get you those free cubes. Doesn't hurt to be patient.
I'm a big fan of being patient.
Yeah.
When it comes to these.
Yeah, I remember early on you liked to snap early and all the time, and then now you're getting to the more patient play.
I might still snap, but I delay my turns sometimes.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, just Shang-Chi'd me.
Yeah, snapping early on these turns, they could wind up being a trap and exactly what your opponent was looking for, which leads to the counter snap and oftentimes 8 cube losses. So just don't press the trigger right away because they might be going, oh yeah? And then you run into a situation like with that clip of Rascal from last week. We're like, oh, we're snapping? We're snapping? And you got a guy on the other end that's doing the Rascal dance over there, like getting all giddy, about to beat the shit out of you. And you're thinking, I'm about to Hulk smash this. And it's like, no.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those, like, for me, where I've gotten people will snap on turn 1, and it's like, oh, really? Okay.
You're right.
Go ahead, lose those 8 cubes.
Yep. And then turn 4, though, will play a little looser in terms of the long pause, because the long pause has more effect on 5 and 6, because turn 4 is still mid-phase, technically, with, turn 3. So you see combos like, Storm Just Jones, stuff like that. So turn 4, you got to play a little looser in terms of that long pause. Don't take it, as gospel. I mean, don't take it as that anyway, but don't look at it as such a hard and fast rule for turn 4, because turn 4 is kind of a flex turn. It can play mid or it can play end. It depends on you, what you drew. It depends on your opponent, what they drew, what kind of deck they're playing. So just, don't play hard and fast with turn 4 the way you do with 5 or especially 6 in terms of these guidelines. But that said, it has the tendency to play more like an end turn more often than not, because of the fact that by turn 4 with draws alone, the opponent knows strength of hand and potential strength of hand that they didn't know going into turn 3, or that one draw, if it worked out, they were going to be like, woohoo, and if it didn't, they're fucked, So, turn 4 can feel like an end turn more often than not. But that said, can't play hard and fast with it like it is. And then all that said, snap earlier during these turns if you're positive of a win, while bearing in mind not to snap, right away. But enough to, keep the opponent for, retreating, because they may think they have the nuts and might think they're baiting you when really you've already got it in the bag. And so you can sucker them into another 4 cubes. Whereas if you're too aggressive, you're going to scare them off like a dude trying to feed a feral cat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the superhero system for this week. And up next we'll be doing the screen grabs and community decks and the clip show and all the little fun not so much hardcore strategy bits of the show. So we'll be right back with screen grabs of the week. Alright, so this first screen grab, I called this one multiplied by 0 because I played Aero turn 6, and damned if they didn't play Iron Man thinking they were going to beat me on Hellfire Club. Because I was leading by 1, but they dropped that Iron Man there. They get a 20. I'm stuck with whatever I throw in there. I mean, it's not necessarily the best of plays to begin with, because to be perfectly frank, it's a 10 power play, and all I have to do is drop a Hulk, and I beat him, like straight up on that spot. But I got fancy with it, because I didn't have a big card, right? And I threw my Aero over there, and I won by 17 and all, which I didn't really need to do. But I think I killed some stuff with Killmonger as well that helped me out at Hellfire Club. Or no, helped me out at Gamma Lab because he had played one more card there. Yeah, so when I drop Aero down, I yank his Iron Man over. And well, I mean, 0 times 0 is still fucking 0, bro. So I made him multiply by 0 because Aero and 0. I'll see myself out. But that goes back to what we were talking about before with the devs and the Aero nerf that's impending, where it's, so every 5 costy card is basically an 8 power, more or less. Gamora being a 7 with the potential for 12, right? But long story short, most of the cards are 5, 8. Like, that's the average power for a 5 costy. Doc Ock a 10, stuff like that, outliers. But lowering this one to a 7 literally does nothing here. So I win by 16 to 0. Like, what's the big deal there? 16 to 0 versus 17 to 0. The point was that Iron Man can't do anything. Now, if I was to play Aero at Hellfire Club straight up against Iron Man, okay, yeah, that changed to 7. Okay, maybe that's doing something, but yeah, I just don't see how that change really nerfs Aero in any way, shape, or form. Because I mean, that's not her point.
For that particular strategy, for sure. Right?
Yeah, which should be the kind of strategy you're rocking with Aero. Like, if you're not and you're trying to use her on turn 5, then you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. The next screen grab we have here, this next screen grab I called Zola prediction because it's very clearly a Zola prediction, and on the surface, looking at it, you're probably like, predict what? But, so what I had done...
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what had happened here and how this played out was, I very clearly had played Hood at some point, and gotten a demon. Probably threw him down at Death's Domain, just to get the free demon. And then, he didn't play anything too tall early, so and I had locked the Flood with Storm, and he didn't even bother with it. Like, I think he was thinking Arnim Zola was gonna be such a boss for him that he didn't have to worry about it, right? But that turned out not to be the case. So I had Mysterio'd very early, before Death's Domain flipped, probably on turn 2 or 3. And once that had happened, it made it really easy to control Death's Domain because he had nothing there. So all I had to do was bide my time, and then I dropped Aero on Death's Domain. So yeah, Aero died, but he didn't have anything there to that point. So 5 plays. And, well, damned if he didn't fucking Arnim Zola wherever he was playing, and I just yanked it over to Death's Domain, where Well, now I win. Because, well, I win. But the only reason it worked is because I knew it was going to be Zola. And the only reason I knew it was going to be Zola was because of all of his turns previously and the fact that he had, like, Black Panther and shit like that. Like, I basically knew he was playing Zola. And that allowed me to just come in and say, nope, denied. So it was a pretty fun one. The next up, we got one of yours. I think you called this one. Oh, this one didn't have a title, so I called it Jeremy Beats Leader because you beat Leader.
Oh yeah, this one. Let me see. Where am I? Which one is this one?
It's the third one in the screen grabs on the script.
Screen grab I see does not have Leader in it though.
Should be at New York in the mid.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, why he Leader?
He leadered because it's the same reason all leader players leadered. It's turn 6. I'm a leader.
But I can't remember what I played that turn because neither one of the cards on that side are cards that I play.
You didn't play anything on that turn. That's how you beat him. You played somewhere else. Like, you must have played Eternity Range.
What you get? Yeah. That's right.
Like, you had to have played Eternity Range. Because he copied your crossbones. But that wasn't enough. Because you were already winning with Deathlock.
Yep.
And it's a really weird leader play, too. Like, this just falls into that whole thing, you know, we talk about and why we hate leader and why leader players very often, more often than not, are not, they're just phoning it in, you know? They don't know what they're doing, so they just phone it in with that. And that's very evident here, because if you look at Onslaught Citadel, yeah, he did something there. He's got, you know, a pretty nice score over there and everything. But playing leader, what if you were to play on Onslaught Citadel? He can't copy anything there. And then New York, you moved cards, so, you know, he's got to know on turn 6 that shit's going to be full up and you don't have to play there. And so, like, the leader, you know, if he had played it even where you had the crossbones, he still loses because...
this is one of those games... This is one of those games that I was talking about earlier where I was facing people that clearly just threw a bunch of cards together.
Yeah.
And said, here you go.
Yeah, like, he's got Wave to play Death, but he doesn't have the surrounding elements that make sense around it. He's got Odin to do on reveals again without cards that really reveal other than Leader, and yeah, it's a really, really odd situation. The thing I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess is, based on the borders, is that he had somehow pulled Leader out on earlier turn than normal and Odin on him on turn 6. And I say this purely because I think that's your death. I think he has your death. And so you just moved your stuff to the center after. And then because he had already leadered and full up that spot, dropping Odin on leader seems like, oh, that's a smart play, but he didn't move anything to New York. Yeah. He should have at least bare minimum moved his death to New York, or, I mean, you know, something other than, like, nothing, because he had to know that's where you were going to go. He shouldn't have just left Onslaught Citadel full. Like, he never should have done that. But, yeah, that's one of those, like, just phoned it in leader plays that are typical of a leader deck and make you wonder what they were thinking.
The next one was Taskmaster.
Yeah, this one you called Double Taskmaster, which I'm not sure why you called it Double Taskmaster.
Oh, because Double Agent, his card, Double Agent.
Oh, got you.
Because of Mindscape.
Right, so it's his Taskmaster.
Yep.
Interesting.
That's why that one is called Double Taskmaster.
Okay. That's an interesting
And
one.
Venom, I did my usual Venom combo. I was gonna Bucky Barnes, but as you can see, he armored on me.
Yeah.
Dick, didn't put armor on me.
I'm real surprised though once you gave up on that lane or had filled it and couldn't win with squirrels. I'm really surprised because you obviously played Squirrel Girl under Venom because he ate him or ate her.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what really surprises me is that he let you just take Eternity Range with the 2 at that point, like just threw nothing there, and
I think he thought that he wouldn't give me enough with his hand in Mindscape.
Yeah.
The end of the turn to
But that,
use anything against him.
yeah, and that's such a weird thing to think if he was paying attention to what your last play was and the fact he just gave you Taskmaster, because, like, damn.
Yeah, giving me Taskmaster screwed him.
Yeah, I think he was a little too focused on the fact that all the other cards were real small, Okoye, Bucky, Hood, and that you wouldn't have been able to play Infinite. I think he really just, like, zoned in on that, oh, he can't play Infinite, and kind of forgot the main detail.
Yeah, meanwhile, I wasn't concerned about it at all.
Yeah, and he only lost by 1, so he might have just maybe mathed it incorrect. I don't know, but that's a real weird one to take when you know you gave someone your Taskmaster and you know they played a powerful card before that.
Next one is yours.
Yeah, this next one, I believe we have the clip of for later, if I'm not mistaken. No, not this one, sorry. This one, oh my fucking stars. So I lost this one, and I clipped, we may have clipped it, but I don't think it's in the clip show. But we put this one in because, dude, there's less than a half of a percent chance, or no, slightly over. It's like just like the tiniest of slivers of odds over a half of a percent chance for what happened here for me to lose. So basically, I had this all locked up. It was an easy dub. He'd gone way too hard at Central Park. Hollow was easy. Didn't have to worry. And with Doc Ock and all, I would have had the hub locked up, except... See how he's got two surfers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one on the bottom's his. The one on the top, that came from the fucking hub. Add a random card to each player's hand. Now, you know what the odds, because I just told you. You know what the fucking odds are of getting a second Silver Surfer? It's so infinitesimal, I never could have fucking seen that one card that could beat me there was literally the card that was coming. I was literally like, haha, you lose. And then he dropped that and I'm like, huh? So that was, well, that hurt. But it was very interesting. And you know me, I'm not a tryhard. I'm not trying to be like, haha, I win all the time, or hey, look at me, I'm looking good here. No, I think it's cool to show screenshots of me losing too when we have these interesting things like this happen, because, I mean, holy shit, man. This one, I call this one Null Gets Nullified because I beat their Null by 1. They had like a Destro deck. They got a Carnage out there, a Venom out there, Wolverine, Deathlock, all that shit, and they played Death. And then their Null is worth like some absurd fucking number on top of that. And for all the power of all the cards that got destroyed, right? But Lockjaw's a good boy. Lockjaw gave me...
You got really lucky with the RNG at Lockjaw, dude.
Yeah, Lockjaw was a good boy. Lockjaw gave me... Well, I mean, it was RNG, and it was part RNG and part, like, knowing. So the RNG more played a role in terms of the hand I was dealt, because I knew specifically how many cards I had in deck and specifically which ones they were, and they were mostly those ones. So I had really, really good odds of drawing like that. But the fact that I drew...
You must have drew like all your low cost?
Yeah, pretty much. Except for, I think, like Sunspot. Or no, I drew him. Yeah, I drew all the low costs because I threw him onto Sunspot. Or, I mean, onto Lockjaw. And so he brought up Infinite. He brought up Gigano. And then, to finish it off, he throws up a Doc Ock. And
Well, hold on. Wouldn't he have?
Yes.
He would
Well,
have.
he played first, and I think I threw the Gigano down. Like on the last one. Like he got pulled up on the last one. But
Lockjaw would have pulled
yeah,
Infinite
yeah,
and Doc Ock.
yeah. But Doc Ock pulled his cards out, and like it pulled Deathlock onto that spot because he didn't start with Deathlock there. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And I killed everything he had there. And then it also brought out Null and Death. But, and so going into turn 6, I was technically losing. But I only had one card in my deck. And it was Gigano. So, he was going to lose. I didn't snap, though, because it was 1 on the math. And in case my math was fuzzy, I didn't want to lose 8 cubes.
He could have easily hit a buff somewhere in his hand, right?
Yeah, I suppose he could have, true. Yeah. Played it there at the end.
So,
But I'm pretty sure his hand was empty and his deck was empty at that point because he had discarded so much shit.
But I
And
guess
already used so
what
much
I'm
shit.
saying though is when the math is that close.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to risk.
Yeah.
Because if you snapped and then he snapped, that's
Exactly.
You can't get away from it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he had like 1 card left in deck going into this, so it could have been anything that could have hurt me. So I wasn't sure, but yeah. So I ended
I
up winning
can't
this
think
one.
of a situation where he would have been buffed enough to, like,
Well, he only had to put a
maybe
blue marble
a
down.
Blue marble.
Yeah.
That would have been it.
Or something, or literally just play a card there that's worth something. But I think going into this, he only had the 1 card to play, and I believe it was Wolverine at Warrior Falls, and then
Which was nowhere near enough.
yeah, like I mean, he was already winning that, but I think he thought like I was gonna play there or something, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
And then this last one is yours. Whoops. This last one's yours. Oh yeah, of the guy like going, well, I got fucking smacked with that one. Yeah, I like that. Interesting Heimdall. Was that from the raft?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense. I was gonna say
And
he's
I
in a
just-
random deck.
I didn't play it to have his ability. I played it because of the power he had.
Right. Good shadow
But
landing
yeah,
again too. I'm assuming.
But yeah, I got him from the raft. Horse, I buckied.
It's a nice sweep.
Crossbones because I was already winning that location and just secured it just in case he had a big card delay. And then, of course,
He did have a tie with Rockslide, but that's it. In terms of like why you laid Crossbones.
Yeah. I mean, if he had decided to play the raft, he played what? With the 1 card there, like if he had played there before, I guess.
Yeah.
I just wanted to secure it basically because I'd already had the other 2 spots.
Right.
Like, I was able to lay death because of all the killed cards.
Right. She would have been free pretty much.
Yeah. And of course, like Squirrel Girl, that's just a throwaway card, right?
Right. And then he played Red Skull, which loses some effectiveness because of all the cards present.
It's funny because he thought Red Skull would be enough to win it, though.
Yeah.
Like, he played it, but, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
But no, you don't.
It's also really odd. They would go into a 4-cube situation with Mighty Thor out there like that because they don't have Thor played and they're not getting a Mjolnir from it. So it's really just, it's a case of, again, 5 cost card, average is 8 power. So without the ability, it's kind of just what the fuck barbecue.
This is one of those games that was snapped early.
Yeah.
So he had snapped before laying
Yeah.
Mighty Thor.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't reciprocate.
Yeah.
Because I
Sometimes you
was like,
see those
oh, he
weird
snapped.
snaps.
Because he snapped so early, I was like,
Right.
what's he playing? Because his
Yeah.
deck didn't really seem to have a,
Yeah, I don't really see a theme
wasn't like
to
a
it.
dead
It's
giveaway.
kind of zooey. Very zooish.
So I didn't snap. Right?
Yeah.
We ended up with 4, but I ended up sweeping him because of it.
Yeah. I mean, it was close in the middle, so I could see why you didn't, but especially like when Heimdall's moving stuff. Because Heimdall moved Deathlock over, because he would have been over there with Bucky. Because you would have had to have had like more than, just to fill the place up.
Yes.
That's an interesting dub, though. So that's our screen grabs of the week. So next up, we're gonna have community decks, and we'll be right back. This one is called Locked Ocean. I called it that because ARedOcean gave it to me. Basically, when the season reset, I was struggling a little bit with decks that I was familiar with, and I was struggling against Zabu specifically. So this is something he came up with, like specifically on the fly right then for me, and mostly because the Silver Surfer stuff he had showed me to adapt to that required Brood, and I just don't have Brood. And when I told him that, he was like, well, don't bother with those then, here's this. So he made this one for me specifically, and so I'm sharing it this week because one, I appreciate that he did that, so shout out to homie and all, but also it's really damned effective. It's a good lock deck. So there's no 6 cost card, there's only 2 5 costs. It's a very low cost, low power looking deck, but you don't need power when you've got the tools you have here. So Rogue, we talked about her counters before. Specifically that night, this deck countered Zabu hard. So if you're seeing Zabu decks, this is a great counter to Zabu. Lizard's strong, and if you lock a lane, they can't fill it. He stays 5. Lizard's strong. If you play Enchantress as a tech card where he already is to counter something they're doing, then he stays strong. Thor is scary. He's just scary. The man can get big. The man can get really big if there's like a Wong or something, right? So people see Thor early and they get a little scared. He's just scary. They're not going to want to lane where he is. So he's like a soft lane lock. You play Thor and people are either going to like commit hard or they're going to walk away from that lane and go, you know what? That's you. You have that. You take that. So that can come in handy, especially when turn 4 comes around and, oh, look, you have an actual lane locker in Spider-Man. So when you throw Spider-Man down, they can't play there. If you've got a lead on a spot, you throw Spidey turn 4, you own that lane, you win. Because if you have Professor X in hand for this, you drop him on the same spot you drop Spidey, that's fucking dirty. Game's now reduced to 2 lanes. They have to win those to win the game. You just got to win one. So, doesn't matter the deck's not really tall. It's got the tech to get it done. You've got Storm. She can lock a lane. She can lock a lane with Thor, and then you drop Mjolnir down. That's enough. You can drop Storm down. You can drop White Queen on top of her. Now you have their 6 cost. You've got a little tech going on, a little know-how, a little knowledge. You know what they're up to. And 2 and 6 is usually enough to get it done on the Storm lane if you're going to play Storm with this deck. And if it's not, you can play Mr. Fantastic to try to get 2 to the Storm lane to make that difference. Killmonger can get rid of a lot of things. Gamora plays into the Daredevil and the Spider-Man situation, because say you didn't draw Professor X for the Spider-Man situation, no problem. You were ahead in that lane when you locked it temporarily, so now you throw Gamora where you know they're going to play, Or say turn... never mind. But so say then, for Gamora, when you play her, we also have that Daredevil. So Daredevil played early If that's what you have for turn 2 without a lizard, right? Then that allows you to see where you can maybe lock with Professor X, but it also will allow you to see where Gamora can be played for max value. So it gives you a lot of options, and Gamora, because of that, fills in for your 6 cost card because she can have that 12 power if you really need something to get tall and get there quick. So all in all, really solid deck. Counters a lot and locks up lanes real nice. So if you've got these cards, huge recommend. It's definitely solid. Did me some good on the opening night. But I've been running that other one, Decacidal, primarily since then. Now this next one is from AdoboSage. We featured a deck from Adobo in a past week. I believe it was episode 1. So
1 or 2.
yeah, something like that. So I think it might have been 2 actually, now that you mention it. But in any case, this one he called Death Pool. And during the week, he had seen on stream I didn't have a lot happening with my Deadpool card in terms of upgrades. And it was right after I'd faced a solid Deadpool deck, and I was like, damn, I need to build myself a Deadpool deck. And I said, it's kind of sad. I got Deadpool and was excited about it, and then just never really used him because I wasn't really 100% sure. Like, I got close on how to, but I wasn't really sure, and blah, blah. And so he seen like my Deadpool card was still gray bordered and was like, oh, you're not joking. And so he sent me this, and this is pretty slick. You've got Deadpool, Nova, Bucky, Forge, Carnage, Venom, Killmonger, Hulkbuster, Sabretooth, Deathlock, Iron Man, and Death. So it's a Destro deck with a Deadpool, Venom, Carnage kind of situation. Forge, I believe, buffs the next card played.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you do that, you can give Deadpool more power or whatever, and then when he's destroyed, he retains it. You can use it to make Carnage bigger before he eats Forge and Bucky and Nova and stuff like that. You've got Sabretooth, who we talked about how to use with Death previously. If you can start throwing Sabretooths out there, while you're destroying that Deadpool, well, you're going to have a really big Deadpool that you can eat with a Venom, and you're going to have a really free Death. And then Iron Man's in there because, if you buff one of those tall lanes real nice, boom. Or if you buff one of the wide lanes, boom. So that gives you some, real versatility. The Hulkbuster I like because it allows you to clear up a cluttered lane, but also destroys cards, to feed Death. So that's a real nice addition that a lot of times you don't see in Destro decks is that Hulkbuster, but that can actually be really useful there. And then there's a Killmonger, we know the value of that. You can get rid of Deadpool, you can get rid of Nova, you can get, so like imagine you've buffed up your Deadpool a bunch, but you don't want to Carnage the lane, and that's what you got left to destroy with or something late. Killmonger, boom, Deadpool kills himself again, comes back doubled, which is the value of Deadpool. Every time you kill him, he comes back twice as powerful. So you can really make something out of Deadpool. And I think having Venom really allows you to protect Deadpool in a deck without armor. I would say Hulkbuster does the same, because I don't even know if you get, because I believe they merge, I don't know that you get Deadpool back.
They're not Death.
Yeah, so I don't know that you get Deadpool back, but putting the Hulkbuster on top of Deadpool makes it so that he can't get one-tapped by a Killmonger or an Elektra. So very effective all-around deck, very good synergies. I like it, and I would love to see community feedback on what they think and whatnot when they run this Deadpool variant. Speaking of Deadpool variants, the one he's got there, best one. Look at that shit. He's got the taco in hand and the gun. Oh my god. He's got the mask up so he can eat the tacos. Oh my god. jelly sandwich, and I want it.
That's a deck that if I had Deadpool, I would 100% use. That would
100% use what?
But I don't have Deadpool.
Oh, you would 100% use them? Yeah. Yeah, so you would definitely add Deadpool to your Destro deck. Gotcha. Yeah, he's a great card. Great card to have. I was excited when I got him. I just hadn't used him yet, and Adobo was kind of like, bruh. And so now we have something. But that is all for community decks. And if you would like to be a part of the show as a guest, let us know. If you would like to be featured on the show in terms of a deck you've made, a play you've made, a screen grab you've done, anything like that, please share either a link in the comments or email us Snapverse616 at gmail, or hit us up on socials. Stay tuned for the credits to find out those socials. And before we send it off for the week, stay tuned for the best part of the show, which is all the amazing clips that we've had either sent to us this week or that we've pulled off ourselves. And we've got some really funny ones with the Decacidal deck from me. And we got some good ones from the community at large. So definitely stay tuned for those to check out the homies and see a lot of the fun. And then the credits roll after that. If you're not familiar with it, we make a Marvel Snap tracker that one of our mods, she's a dev by trade, made, and you can keep track of your wins and losses, your cube gains, wins and losses by deck, by season, etc., etc. And it's all fairly automated to where you only have to input cube plus minus, and each season you enter a new name and click a button and it makes you a new sheet. You know, no fuss, no muss. So that's a good resource to have. And of course, in the back, it has all of the Super Squad's info all in one place, updated at least weekly, with the community insights and other infos we gather as we play and as y'all tell us what you see. And so that can be a good resource for you to know what to look for out there when you see certain cards, what might be coming. So stay tuned for the clip show, and we'll catch you next week. You got anything to add, Jer?
No, I'm good for the week. See you next week.
All right, excelsior, true snappers, and enjoy the clips. But you don't look like it. Oh, poor little puppers. Oh, Professor X. Oh, shit. Yes. Yes. Oh, well. Oh, my stars. Whew. Woo-wee. I catch my breath. That was a laugh right there. Woo. This deck is too fun. Oh, man, and I did sing it, too. I said he was getting fucked in the negative zone. I said it. I said every card you own is getting fucked in the negative zone. I said it. Woo. Woo. Jesus, that was fun.
And we're going to pull him away. Yes, sir. And that's going to do it. Now, wait a second. How did he get a double? Hold on. How did he get... Hold on. Your total power is doubled at this location. Oh, she stole the Iron Man ability. Okay. So, Magneto gets the win, dude. Very nice. So what he did, Chet, is Magneto pulls any 3 and 4 cost cards. So he pulled Cosmo, Omega Red, and Mr. Fantastic. Dude, that was a sick dub. His Iron Man was only a 2. That's funny. It's all the mighty Magneto with that big one. Perfect. All right.
Is fucked up. Should have snapped. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't need to get infinite on day one. The journey of getting to infinite is fun and is good stream content. What did my opponent just discard?
Where each deck fitted, even though I'm prone to snap that. Known to be so quick-witted, you sound Drax when you snap back. When everyone knows it rains Jess Jones on the tap mat. Think your boss sings the flow, administer vision if you're not at the spot I blow with a skip track. You tried to blow back the roof, so my armor said I will skip that. Jubilee still got a +1, Okoye said she's with that. Cause the Nightman cometh, Iceman stunneth, while the Hulkman smashing America asks who done it. Snapverse616. 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 Then Invoke drops Kazar cause he's Mr. Fantastic. His spectrum of skills are what let me handle this rap shit. His puff up, his clutch up, smokes 3 sacks like it's magic. But it's a Wolfsbane classic. You thought your full moon's Jurassic, but it's actually tragic. If I'm a silver fox with the flippity yippity yapping, he's quick like a rabbit. His girls unfurling squirrels while his flirkins hurling antics. Invoke the hawk-eyed watcher who ought to see through your static.